Everyone knows the story of the Titanic, the luxury, the iceberg, and the more than 1,500 souls lost to the freezing Atlantic Ocean. But what if I told you that the deadliest maritime disaster in world history, during peacetime, didn't happen in the Atlantic? It wasn't caused by an iceberg, and the victims didn't die from the freezing cold. Instead, they burned alive in the tropical waters of the Philippines. On December 20th, 1987, a passenger ship collided with an oil tanker, causing the sea itself to turn into a lake of boiling fire. More than 4,300 people vanished into the blazing inferno in less than 2 hours. Only 26 survived. How did a simple holiday voyage turn into a floating slaughterhouse? Don't go anywhere, because today, we are diving deep into the darkest, hidden truth behind the tragedy of the MV Doña Paz. But before we start our discussion, if you think this video is helpful, please hit that subscribe and like button. It is a huge help for a small creator like me to continue making content. 5 days before Christmas, in the Philippines, this is the peak season for traveling back to the provinces. For thousands of ordinary citizens in Leyte, the MV Doña Paz wasn't just a ship. It was their only hope of being reunited with their children, parents, and families for the upcoming Christmas. According to the official manifest submitted by Sulpicio Lines, the ship was completely safe. It listed exactly 1,493 passengers and 59 crew members, perfectly within the legal limit. But that piece of paper was a death sentence written in ink. In reality, corruption and negligence were rampant at the pier. Illegal chance tickets were being sold under the table. Cots meant for a single person were packed with entire families of 4 or 5. The corridors, the stairwells, the open decks, every single corner and inch of the ship was overtaken and choked by a sea of human bodies. Its true number on board? Over 4,300 people, nearly triple its allowed capacity. The ship was a ticking time bomb floating on water. And where was the leadership? As night deepened over the treacherous Tablas Strait, the captain was reportedly in his private cabin, drinking beer and watching television. Control of the ship was left in the hands of an uncertified apprentice. No one was watching the radar. There was no lookout on deck. A completely blind ship sailing straight into the mouth of hell. 10 o'clock at night. The sea is calm. The weather is clear. Thousands of passengers are fast asleep, packed like sardines in the sweltering heat beneath the decks, dreaming of Christmas morning. But emerging from the darkness from the opposite direction is a small rusted oil tanker, the Mount Vector. The Vector was carrying 8,800 barrels of highly flammable petroleum, gasoline, and kerosene. And here is the staggering truth. The Mount Vector had no license to operate, no functioning navigation equipment, and absolutely no lookout on watch. 2 completely blind ships running at full speed, heading directly toward a certain and fatal intersection. 10:29 in the evening. The unyielding bow of the Doña Paz rips directly into the side of the Mount Vector, tearing open its gas tanks. The collision creates sparks that instantly ignite a massive explosion. Within seconds, thousands of gallons of burning gasoline violently spread across the entire Doña Paz. The ocean water mixes with the oil, causing the sea itself to burst into flames. In the blink of an eye, the ships, the air, and the ocean are completely consumed by a massive wall of fire. There was no warning. No sirens ever rang. Thousands of passengers woke up not to an alarm, but to the feeling of their skin peeling away from the intense heat of the flames and the suffocating, thick smoke. The entire ship's power grid instantly died, plunging the crowded decks into a pitch-black, toxic labyrinth of blinding smoke. Fear morphed into a brutal battle for survival. People trampled over one another just to find an exit, only to realize the doors were completely blocked by luggage and piles of trapped bodies. Passengers screamed for life jackets, but the lockers were padlocked and the panicked crew couldn't find the keys. But even if you managed to get a life jacket, where would you go? When the few survivors finally made it to the top deck, They looked out at the ocean and realized there was no escape. The entire perimeter of the ship was surrounded by blazing oil slicked across the water. If you stayed on the ship, you burned to death. If you jumped into the water, you landed in a boiling pot of fire and fuel. The Tablas Strait had become a massive, floating crematorium. It took nearly 8 hours for the authorities in Manila to even realize a horrific accident had occurred in Mindoro. 8 hours of people fighting for their lives in pitch black, shark-infested, burning waters, with absolutely no rescue in sight. Before we uncover the miraculous survival stories of the very few people who managed to escape this living hell, please take a second to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. Stories like this must never be forgotten by history, and your support for this channel helps us continue sharing these historical documentaries. Click like if you are learning something today, and let us know in the comments, in your opinion, who is truly to blame for this tragedy? Out of more than 4,300 people on board, only 26 individuals lived to tell the tale. 24 of them were from the Doña Paz, and 2 were from the crew of the Vector. One of those fortunate survivors was a passenger named Paquito Anselmo. He recounted a heartbreaking scene right before he jumped. He saw desperate parents throwing their newborn infants into the burning water, praying for a miracle to save them, before the parents themselves were completely swallowed by the flames. Anselmo dove into a rare patch of water that wasn't covered in oil. For hours, he swam through the dark, fighting off the freezing cold, the toxic smoke, and the absolute terror surrounding him as the screams of others echoed in the night. He, along with 25 others, clung to floating debris until a passing vessel, the MV Don Claudio, spotted them in the dark and rescued their burned, wounded bodies from the water. In the weeks following the tragedy, the shores of Mindoro were washed over with bodies. Most of them were charred beyond recognition. And the most painful part of all, an overwhelming number of them were children. The final official death toll of the MV Doña Paz was set at 4,386 people. It remains, to this day, the darkest stain in the history of maritime travel, a tragedy born from corporate greed, gross negligence, and a broken system. The Supreme Court eventually ruled that the owners of the unlicensed Mount Vector held the legal responsibility for the collision, but for the Filipino people, the name Sulpicio Lines became a permanent symbol of a system that prioritized profit over human life. The Doña Paz is not just a terrifying story at sea. It is a haunting reminder of what can happen when public safety is traded for fast cash. The next time you travel to be with your family for the holidays, remember the 4,300 souls who shared that exact same simple dream, but never made it home to the ones they loved. And don't forget to always ask for guidance from our Creator, because He is the only one who can protect us at any moment, and He is the only one who has the power to ensure we make it home safely.